Hi, welcome to The Sacred Journey. The Sacred Journey is the program that reminds you that life is a wonderful adventure. Each and every experience we have is a unique and perfect opportunity for learning. I'm Joyce St. Germain, and this program is about rattles. In fact, I'm calling it the use of rattles in shamanic work. I, as you know, do a lot of shamanic work, shamanic healing work, shamanic journeying, all kinds of shamanic work, but you may find some ways that you use rattles and that you could deepen any kind of a practice. You could use them in ceremony, ritual, does not have to be shamanic. So I'll be covering many types of rattles, and I'll give you some examples of how I use them, and I'll even tell you about some very simple rattles that you can make. So forgive me in advance. I'll be reaching around a lot because I have so many different things to share with you. So the first one I'm going to show you is my favorite rattle. I have quite an array of rattles. I have quite a collection, but there's one rattle that is my absolute dearest favorite partner rattles, and I'll even be sharing some interesting stories about some of these rattles and some of the things that I'll be showing you tonight. This was one of my first rattles, not my absolute first, but it was one of my first rattles, and I have taken it all over the world, literally all over the world, leading retreats, doing ceremony, and it's a very special place in my heart. It is a kind of leather. I never found out exactly what it is. It's likely that it's elk, but I never found out. I never got to speak to the artist who created it. It's extremely hard, and I've seen elk that was hard and elk not so much. Very thick, very durable, which is why it's easy to travel with. That said, whenever you travel with something that's really important to you, there's always a chance of it getting lost. So I also keep that in mind when I choose and where I choose to bring it. This has a beautiful crystal on the end, and crystals are extremely important in shamanic work. And it's just lashed together with a little bit of leather. The sound of a rattle and the feel of a rattle are the two most important things to consider if you're choosing a rattle, and also how you'll use it and why you'll use it. This sound I absolutely adore, and when I hear it, I just relax and I say, okay, I have lots of possibilities. I can do a shamanic journey, I can do clearing, I can do healing, I can move energy, lots of different things I can do, and I'll play a little bit for you. Now, I am using at approximately 4 beats a second. And in a previous episode, we talked about drums, and I've always said I can't count 4 beats a second, but I can feel 4 beats a second. Sometimes for certain types of work, I would use it more rapidly, and it might come to even 7, possibly even 8 beats a second. Okay, but the reason I would use 4 beats a second is to either guide myself or someone else into a shamanic journey. And for that, we need to be, most of the time, in theta brainwaves. And the 4 beats a second will guide you there. It can also be used more slowly to even emulate the heartbeat of the earth. Usually I use a drum for that. But rattles are genuinely thought to be feminine because it looks like the womb. Because this one has a crystal, it's thought to have united the masculine and the feminine energies. So a rattle that would have a stick or a handle would also have united the feminine and the masculine. But a rattle that is just completely round, thought to be like the womb, completely feminine. This is a gourd rattle, And I chose it because I loved the imagery of the lizard on it. And lizard medicine is the ability to go into non-ordinary reality, or the ability to go into altered states. And it has a sun on it. And I just love the sound. It's extremely lightweight. So if you were rattling conceivably for over 30 minutes or 20 minutes, even 15, your hand wouldn't get tired, your fingers wouldn't feel cramped. Very lightweight, relatively durable, and it was created by the artist making a hole and then filling it with, could be, this sounds maybe like seeds or pebbles. Sometimes they'll be filled with ball bearings, so you'll have a metallic sound, sometimes corn, usually not something like rice or something that over time would deteriorate. Then it was plugged back up. And that said, if you ever see a rattle that you love, and I loved the imagery on this, I loved the size, I wasn't crazy about the sound. It just was too much of a thud. So I removed the plug. And I'll be removing some of, this one had popcorn kernels in it, and adding things and taking away things until I like the sound of it. And I'll test it out of how it feels to me. Then I'll plug it up with leather or wood and just use a glue to keep it in place. Another one of my favorite rattles, and if I have time, I'll tell you a really interesting story about this. So I'll try to allow some time. This is made up of juniper, and it has ball bearings inside. It was intended to be a child's rattle because it's small. I absolutely love it because it's small. It's incredibly durable, and I love the sound. And I have a few others, I don't have them right within reach, from the same artist that are larger. And although they're lovely and different types of wood, so all different woods will carry a different type of medicine, this is my go-to. And another reason I like it, because it is so portable, is I keep it in this pouch with, and that's a deerskin pouch, so it brings the medicine of gentleness, with this piece of agate that has just quite randomly happened to have a beautiful thumb groove, and I use it for cord cutting, certain types of extractions, clearings, removing of energies. These two fit absolutely perfectly in there, easy to travel with, okay, and not at all fragile. So another type of rattle is this one from Ecuador, and it has different seed pods on it, a totally different, softer sound. I tend to use something like this for clearing energy fields or resetting energy fields rather than journeying. I personally like a harder sound, something a little bit sharper. This is from the Amazon. It was given to me by a dear friend, and the colors and the shape and the style is very traditional. This was from Brazil. I feel that this one's a little more fragile, so I don't take it anywhere. I just use it here. And another type. This is made with flattened out bottle caps. This one's from Africa, but this would be an easy one to duplicate. I just like this one for many reasons, just because it's so different, and I like the unusual sound that it makes, like the way that it feels in my hand. These are easy to find in music stores, although these are from different countries and they're hand painted. Very soft sound, very egg-shaped. And these are easy to use for a long period of time. Softer sound, so I wouldn't use it if I were guiding a room full of people. These bring in the medicine of water or the ocean. There's two different. They're made of cowrie shells, and this one has little metal caps on the end, so it adds one more sound to it, where these kind of hit each other versus this. And I've made one of these simply by, I like the metal inside because this is such a hard surface, like little ball bearings or BBs, and just gluing a piece of leather over it. So gluing a little piece of leather over it keeps everything safe, and do know that it's likely to come undone here, so always check it to make sure that you're not losing pieces. And I stuffed the hole. I did not make these. I might have made this one. I didn't make this one. I stuffed the hole with fringe so that there's more of a chance that it'll stay intact. This is an entirely different type of rattle, and it's a little different than a rattle because it also is a percussion instrument, as rattles are actually too, but more of a striker. But then if I use it with a little more movement, you'll hear the shells working against each other, and this on its own can be used as a rattle. So I'm trying to remember which ones I've shown you and which ones I have yet to share with you. This artist does something really amazing. He takes a piece of wood, carves it out, takes the piece that he carves out, and makes it into a rattle. This is the same artist that made my little juniper rattle. This one's nice and smooth, feels great in the hand, and I love that it, in art we would say sort of like the positive and negative, whereas the hole is the negative space, this is the positive. This is hollow inside, it goes back to negative. It gets not filled, but ball bearings and different things are put in the middle. So it's constantly changing, positive, negative, so it's in balance, and just beautiful craftsmanship. You'll often see rattles that have antlers for handles. Let's speak about this one first. And this has the medicine of deer here and here, and the medicine of elk. And elk, by the way, medicine is stamina. Nice, sharp, I think inviting to journey sound. Now, a turtle rattle brings the medicine of turtle, which is a reminder that we are a part of the earth, not apart from the earth. We are a part of. Okay, two different words. A part, not a part. No, one word. Okay, so you get what I'm saying. So this adds a whole nother sound and a whole nother medicine. It's a softer, more muffled sound. So I would use it for different reasons. Trying to clear space here. Sometimes you'll see ceramic rattles. This one was raku fired, which is a beautiful process of when it's fired, creating some surface color. I would consider this fragile. I wouldn't travel with it. Or I would, but I'd be incredibly careful. This is also ceramic. And this was fired in a pit at the beach. So it has some nice extra medicine of the ocean. Now I have a pair of these because sometimes for some of the healing work, you would use two. If you were smoothing energy, if you were balancing energy. So you know the kind of work that you do or what you're interested in, and you might know if you would use more than one rattle at the same time. This is the lovely rattle that represents bear, and also the moon phases. And I love that there's a spiral at the end, that the artist added that, because spirals are invitations to journey or invitations to enter other realities. They're almost considered like a vortex. Okay, I'm going to reach back here. Oh, here's a two-sided rattle. Buffalo and elk. So I might use this to bring buffalo, which is the medicine of prayer and abundance, and that you always have everything you need and there's always enough for all, but we really need to walk with gratitude and use things and share and give always with gratitude and in prayer. So I could use it this way, just one side. I had this made by an artisan that would give you the option of what medicines you wanted, what animal medicines. And I'm looking around because I knew I had this one I wanted to show you. Give my back when I have to turn away from you. This is a drum beater that has a rattle on one end. So as you're using it on your drum, you also have the rattle. And I like that combination. Put this in a safe place. If you want to have a rattle that's used mostly for a particular thing, choose it if it has a certain meaning to you. And the reason I say that is in a future show, I'll talk about spider web journeying. The spider web has all those spokes and everybody thinks about those, and we call that the positives, and the negatives or the unknowns are the spaces between. I use this one to guide people to journey into those spaces. We do this for spider web journeying, and I might use it for some other purposes. Has the medicine wheel on the back, the color of the 4. Directions, the 4 cardinal points. This is a deer toe rattle. Lots of deer medicine. And by the way, none of these animals are killed to make instruments or rattles or anything out of their parts, even the drums you see here. The animal either died or was used for food, and instead of wasting any part of it, it was used to create sound. High honor. We consider that the animal has been given its voice back. And so because it has its voice back, it can sing again, it can sound again, it can be joyful again. This is a shaker style rattle, okay, rather than a rattle that you would create a sound by having it hit against the inside. So this is not hollow at all. One thing I do want to show you about this that I think is really beautiful, you'll see that all of the beadwork has a certain pattern on it everywhere except there. You can see a blue bead where you would expect a red one to be. That's called the Spirit Bead. The artist did that on purpose to be humble, to say only Great Spirit or Creator is perfect. I'm not. I'm human. I'm not perfect. So often in beadwork, if you see one bead out of place, it doesn't have to be on a drum or a rattle or a shaker or anything. It could just be in a necklace or beadwork, like embroidery on something that has beadwork. If you see one out of place, that's what it is. It's the Spirit Bead. Another one of my favorites. This is wolf, deer, and elk. Elk is very durable, which is probably why its medicine is endurance, and it's used a lot in rattles. And I chose this on a visit to Taos, and the artist had a lot of them, and the wolf, again, wasn't killed for its fur. Please know and understand that. This particular one I loved because the fur was a little longer, and I tried every one for the sound and the feel, but this had a visual the others did not. The fur, I felt like the wolf was dancing because that had such beautiful movement. So again, one of my favorites. I would consider this possibly a little bit more fragile than to bring around to a lot of places. So let me put that back. Oops. I was showing you some ceramic ones, and I forgot to show you this one that was done with horsehair. It was handmade by a dear friend of mine and gifted to me. It has a very gentle sound, very sweet and soft and gentle, and it was made by, as it was being fired, horsehair was laid on it, and that's what the texture that you see as it was being fired. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time.